Hello.
Welcome back, Kristen. You were sick last week,
Thank
so
you.
glad to
I
have you
know.
back on the intro.
I know. It's been rough. Um, if you can still hear it in my voice, but we're getting over it. And
hmm
I'm on the mend now. So I'm sorry I missed last week, but I'm glad to be back for this week. It didn't mean I missed listening to the episode because last week's episode was amazing with stable recovery. So
Well, and we're super excited about for everyone to listen to this week's episode with Amandine from Amandine Sol Botanicals. And just to give you guys a little background on Amandine and her products, she creates this really great skincare line that's all natural. Most of her products were inspired or originate from her farm in Canada. And she has this really amazing oil for your face that I use myself, and I can't say enough good things about it.
yeah, it's incredible. And especially, it's like an all in one skincare, which is good for someone like me because I've never had the propensity to like, I know you have had more of a propensity to find like all the steps and do all the things. And it's just not, I don't know, I'm just not wired that way. And I need two things or one thing to do. And hers is amazing. And so it was so great to talk to her just because we love her product, but then to tell her story of going from, kind of a conventional path of school, college, law school, okay. And then before she goes to law school, she's like, wait a second, hard stop. This isn't for me.
Yeah.
And charted a really hard, but now, as again, like a lot of entrepreneurs that we've talked to talk about, it's like, it wasn't easy. It's not like she doesn't still feel like sometimes she hits a bump in the road that feels really tough,
Right.
but
And
she
I
keeps
think,
going and
and you'll hear it a lot in the episode, she even hit so many times where she was like, is this it? Like, did I pursue this and
right.
the road is done? Like, is that where it is? And, she kept pushing through. And honestly, I don't want to ruin the episode for everyone, but like, it's like her journey is very inspiring. And she had a lot of, women supporting her along the way as a female entrepreneur that sometimes is definitely has its own struggles. And so she had a lot of women encouraging her along the way as well, which I think was an amazing part of her story.
Yeah. And her energy is just awesome. Like just as a human being,
I agree.
like her vibe, her energy is just
Yeah.
great. And you feel it in her products too. So I can't wait for everybody to hear it and buy her products because they're awesome. And she was kind enough to give us a discount code, I believe.
Yeah, she did. So our code is Arbor15. We're also going to post it on our Instagram. So if anyone wants to buy her products, which I would encourage you to use them, we will post it on our Instagram as well. But again, it's Arbor15 and it gives you 15% off of her products.
And as an aside, they're not just for women; they're for men too. And like, who is that guy? Travis Kelsey. He was like featured. I mean, I know she's been like in a lot of magazines and stuff, but like, I know Travis Kelsey's used it. There's been other men to use it, but like, I don't know them off the top of my head at this point, at the moment.
Yeah, I mean,
But
honestly, her product is for all ages, all genders. Like
yeah,
it's not really marketed just towards one specific
yeah, or
demographic.
like need, or like a dry skin, or
Right.
this or that, or whatever.
Yeah.
So, anyways, it's like your own little spa in a bottle,
Exactly.
and
So,
it's awesome.
and her story, as we said, is really encouraging. So we can't wait for you guys to listen. And the third episode, here we go.
Yeah, enjoy it.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Arbor podcast. You have Lauren here, and we have Kristen. And
Hi,
then
everybody.
and our guest today is Amandine of Amandine Sol Botanicals. And if you could just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and your skincare line.
Yeah, well, As you introduced, my name is Amandine. I'm the co-founder of Amandine Sol Botanicals. We launched in May 2019 after moving from Toronto, Canada to an 80-acre farm. It was a totally wild experience. My family are all beauty entrepreneurs. They have started their own beauty businesses. My mom owned a beauty store where she originally sold Kiehl's on consignment, so she always had an eye for like the coolest, never before seen products, up and coming brands. And my dad is a hairdresser for over 50 years. My brother got into the industry as well, and even beyond that, jewelers, fashion, all of that. So I really grew up obsessed with all things fashion and beauty and really wanted to be in that world, but never felt like I would truly fit in it. I'd never be very successful in it. I saw the struggles of entrepreneurship firsthand, really grew up in my dad's hair salon. It was like no weekends, family vacations were few and far between. I really saw the unpredictability of it and shied away from that, was very scared of it. So I decided I would start studying to go to law school. I went to university, majored in English language and literature, just really had my head down, worked in a law firm for 3 years. And every summer I would go back. It was an all-female firm, and they'd say, don't do this, do anything else. You can do anything else. Just don't become a lawyer. It's a brutal life. And I kind of shrugged it off like a kid would. And I've got this. It'll be cool. And then it wasn't until my last year of university that I started to think, having this pit in my stomach of I'm not 100% sure about this. I could see myself getting through law school, but I don't know if I see myself behind the desk every day as a lawyer. I really love to create. I love to make things come to life out of thin air. Like that to me was always my favorite craft or activity. I was never really into sports, but I love to make things. So, the most exciting thing I made at the law firm was a cover of a brief, which could only really be like 2 colors and one type font. So I wasn't really feeling creatively fulfilled, but kind of still wanted to be realistic. Like what can we really do in today's day and age to be successful and have a stable life and career? So I started interviewing at different places, financial firms, marketing agencies, and thought, none of these are really fulfilling me more than law would. So, okay, I'll reapply to law school, try and get back in and, follow that path. So I did exactly that. I got into a great law school and filed that away and said, okay, in the fall, that's where I'm going. And that summer, my parents called me and they're like, hey, we just sold our family home that you live in and bought an 80-acre farm. I'm like, what do you mean? Like, we're moving to the country, like 2 hours outside
So
of
there was
Toronto.
like no discussion. You just like, it was like,
No.
that
That's
is so
wild.
Yeah,
funny.
I don't even know if they had that much discussion about it. I think my dad is like super impulsive. Like he always had this dream of retiring to a farm one day. Was he ready to retire? No. Was anyone ready to
Right.
move 2 hours outside of the city? No. Like we didn't even go to summer camp. Like we were not country people. We're
Outdoorsy
not.
The
people, yeah.
city
Oh, yeah,
people.
we
Yeah.
were city people. Like for me, fun was like going shopping and going
Right.
Mm.
downtown. Like I was not an outdoorsy kid. So, okay, we all went along with it. And to me, it was like, I'll only be there when I come home to visit from law school. So we move up there, and my initial reaction was, this is insane. Like, it was literally the show Schitt's Creek, where it's like, we're so out of our depth. My brother was calling me Alexis for the first few weeks. Like, everything was like, ew, what are we doing here?
David, ew.
Yeah, exactly. But now I like to think of myself like David, like
Mm.
opening Rose Apothecary, making the best out of this little town. So yeah, that was our first experience there, and then I always had like super reactive skin. So I've had like acne, dermatitis, rosacea, like literally any skin condition I've had it. So my mom would always try and mix up like home remedies and she'd always take us to naturopaths, trying to like, cure all these crazy skin issues I had. So I was always obsessed with trying things to find that work for my skin. And she's obviously obsessed with beauty too. So we'd always be trading potions back and forth and talking, oh, have you seen this new product? Should we try it? Let's do this, let's do that. So again, that was like a huge thing for us. And
Right.
so we go out to the law school that I'd accepted and, put my deposit down on. I'd never even been there. And as soon as we get there, I just start sobbing. Like the tears are
Yeah.
coming and my mom's looking at me like, oh, you okay? And I don't even have words. I think especially every woman has had this feeling before where it's like your body is saying something is wrong and you
Right.
don't even have
Right.
words to get it out and say like, this is what it is and here's how to fix it. You're just like, like
Yeah, you're just like, no.
solid.
Like, I cannot do this. Like, I was not like, there's something inside of you being like rejecting it completely.
Completely, yeah. And it wasn't even something I could verbalize at that point. It was just tears. So finally, my mom looks at me in the middle of the night because I still haven't stopped crying. And she's like, you don't have to do this. If you could do anything in the world, what would you do? It's like, I'd start a skincare line with you. And she's like, let's do it. Packed up the car and drove back to the farm. And that was,
So had you had any thoughts of this, like maybe in the summer before, or I mean, obviously you guys were doing like all the things to sort of make your own remedies for your own skin. But was there any, like, was it like it hit you, like you're sitting there crying and being like, I do not want this life, and then this idea came, or had it been like in the back of your head a little bit?
I think there was probably only one little seed that was planted was my mom had bought these green glass vial bottles, like dropper bottles, and she'd planned at the farm as like a little hobby that she was going to make her own face oil. She was like, I've seen this other brand that does it and I can do that, no problem. And I'm just going to do it as like a fun little thing to like make my own skincare. And I was like, I think that kind of implanted somewhere in the back of my head, and we never
Right.
talked about it. I never even showed interest in it. I was never like, tell me about it. Like, it just kind of like sat in the back of my head, and in that moment it just kind of came out. So I think it was the moment pulled it out of me, but it was also somewhat brewing, but I never had like a
Right.
conscious thought about
Right.
it, like I'm gonna not go to law school. At that
Yeah.
point I was all in. I thought I was going to tour the school that I'd be going to.
Right.
And that
That makes
process
sense.
from going from like starting your skincare line, can you talk a little bit about like actually creating the product itself? Because I'm sure that that was
Yeah.
also an arduous process of, coming from law school and then being like, I want to create this. How did you
Yeah.
guys like, what is that process?
Yeah, so it started on the drive home. It was like, okay, what, even the moments we were packing up the hotel room that we were staying in, my brain like started going already. And I was like, step one, let me reach out to anyone I know who's done this before or done something similar, who's maybe from Toronto, maybe we're like, have a few degrees of separation, and I can just send them an Instagram DM and ask them what their process was like. So that was the first step. I DM'd like a few girls who I'd seen do something. Like, not all of them were even beauty, but I was like, you got an idea off the ground. You're from Toronto. You're from the same area as me. Like, what was that like? And I just sent them like a really genuine message. Like, I'm very inspired by what you've done. How, what was that like for you? I'd love to meet and get together and just like chat. I have this idea I'd love to share with you. And they were all so sweet and so responsive. And right away, we're like, yeah, let's get together. And some of them have
Wow.
become, yeah, like very open. Like some of them have still become and stayed very close friends since then, and like mentors to me. And the drive home, it was like, I think it was like an 8-hour drive that we were just like, okay, what are we making? Like, we
Right.
knew immediately there was a gap in the market where like
Right.
skincare was, especially at that point and even more so today, skincare was getting so complicated.
Right.
It went from being like, a cream, a serum, an eye cream to 12 steps. Now we're looking at Korean beauty. Now we're looking at single ingredient products where it's like, here's just niacinamide, just hyaluronic acid, just vitamin C, and you go home with all of these bottles, and you're like, okay, now what?
Right.
I realized like,
Exactly. I mean, that
yeah,
is me to a T. Like, it's so overwhelming if, when you
yeah,
kind of approach it, and I'm like, that is why your product's amazing. Just
yeah,
shameless plug, like, because it really is simple. And for
yeah,
someone who's like, I honestly, like, Lauren is more prone to like being like, I will do, like 4 or 5 things because she's
yeah,
kind of like loves it. Not that I want beautiful skin, but it is really difficult for me to be like, so what is this one again? And how
yes,
many times? And like, am I missing
yeah.
something? And
Yeah.
it does get so complicated. It's like
So
science.
complicated, yeah. And even as someone who's grown up in the industry, is obsessed with skincare, I was so overwhelmed. Like I remember going into the Ordinary when they opened in Toronto and being like, "What should I use?" And the person who worked there couldn't even tell me. Like
Right.
there were so many bottles that like they're like, "Well, whatever you think." Like, I don't know. Like just because every product's $7 doesn't mean I should be using all of them. And it was really this moment of like the customer was becoming the chemist, and you're at home with all these bottles and you're not sure which order to apply them in, which ones go together, and that was really causing a lot of skin problems for myself. And I noticed so many other people kind of having similar complaints where you're using the wrong ingredients together, or mixing too many actives on the same days, and we're seeing so much perioral dermatitis, which is this like rash like uh,
Right.
red bumps around mouth, eyes, and I was getting that really bad to the point that like my eyes were like swollen shut from it. And it was from using too many products, too many actives, and then stress was a huge contributor to getting that. And once it starts, it's really hard to control. You know, you can take antibiotics for it, there's creams, but it does flare up quite frequently. And so I noticed that the farm was just this point of inspiration where we'd left the city. Everyone told us we were crazy, said we were like we were mad for leaving Toronto and moving to the middle of nowhere. But it was really just like my family up there and this moment of simplicity and return to nature. And I was like, I think that is exactly what we need to bottle and deliver to people who, you know, don't want to move to a farm and don't need to move to a farm, where it smells good, it feels good, it simplifies the hecticness of everyday skincare and delivers real results. You know, my mom and I felt that we were both always trying so many different products. You know, we were getting hyped on the marketing and the sales and the influencers telling us we needed it. We'd invest in it and find that it didn't really deliver. And that it's so disappointing to be excited and spend money and have hope for something that's going to fix your skin or do something for your skin, and it doesn't do anything.
Right.
And we also felt like we were both being marketed to, and it felt so like she was Estee Lauder, I was Glossier, and it was like, hey, well, maybe we don't both fit into these brands. And we wanted to create something that brought that experience together, this like multi-generational brand that your mom can use it, you can share it, your best friend can share it with you, you can gift it to someone as like this really beautiful, like more than just, hey, you need face serum, but like, hey, here's like 2 minutes out of your day to relax, unwind, and have a really beautiful experience of taking care of yourself. And the products are super experiential. I wanted them to feel like more than just, you know, you're slapping the creams on and you're going to bed or getting out the door. You know, busy moms, working moms, everyone, like students, everyone has a need for skincare and a need to take care of it. They, like you said, you want your skin to look amazing, but you don't necessarily have the time or the energy to be putting into which one to apply next and how and where and what. But you still get that, you can get better results by using fewer products and actually have this, like, even if it's 1 minute, like it does not take long to put on a face oil and just take a few deep breaths, decompress, because you maybe only have 1 minute before you have to get back to changing diapers or running out the door to work or whatever it is.
And I will say from my own experience of using your product, another plug here, is that there is the smell of your product is so, I don't want to use the word like it, you kind of feel like you're escaping for a second. Like when you put it on and it's like, as you said, like if you only have 1 minute and you have to go change a diaper, you get that minute to yourself and you put it on and it's kind of like getting your nails done or you did your hair. You're like, I feel like I'm a little bit together and I had a moment to myself. And then it kind of, for me, it gives me a little bit of confidence of being like, I feel like my skin looks better. I feel like I can go forward. So like, that's my own personal experience with your product, that there is a moment in it where you're like, I feel better about myself and in that experience of using it.
Absolutely. I think that's something, you know, we can say that skincare and self-care is like frivolous and, you know, there's a level where, yes, it's overkill, but I can say from personal experience, like when life is being really intense or really stressful, that, you know, when you don't feel like you can do anything, like sometimes you don't feel like you can even tackle exercising or eating a really nutritious meal or going on a hot girl walk. Like sometimes those things are just too much for where you're at. But I've been able to pull myself out of like a dark place by just like going to the bathroom, washing my face, putting on 2 products and feeling like, okay, I've got this.
Yeah.
I've done one thing to make myself feel better today. And those little wins accumulate. And you're like, okay, now I'm going to go make a salad. Now I'm going to go for a walk. It's like, it kind of it pulls you out little by little. And it's those little moments, I think, that are so much more important than the whole, like, okay, I'm going to change my entire life and personality right now.
Oh, 100%.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so could you just talk a little bit about the trajectory of starting from the farm to where you are now? Because I know that you've been in some pretty big magazines, you know, like you can buy your products in Air One now. So if you could just talk a little bit about how that process came to be.
Yeah, and jumping back to your question too of like how we even got started, I totally missed that in the whole thing. I think so. We started so small, and I was not scared of starting small. If anything, I was like, I want to start on such a micro level because it felt way too big to say, I'm going to be in Nordstrom's tomorrow, or like, I'm going to raise $1 million in funding overnight. Like that, those weren't things I knew how to do, but I knew how to create a product because, we have all this knowledge of having made home remedies for so long, and it felt like that's a learnable thing. We can take courses, we can study online. There's so much information on the internet. Like you can learn so much. So we started by just buying like raw ingredients like lavender oil, lemon peel oil, calendula, like ingredients that we've heard and read real studies about having real benefits and real effects on the skin, and we started just playing with them at home at the farm. What do they smell like? What do they feel like? Do they go together? And then at a point we're like, okay, this is a big undertaking. We've learned so much. We feel like we understand it really well, but we also, I felt like every moment kept leveling up. Like
Right.
we're like, okay, let's DIY it. And then as we got deeper, we're like, actually, I think we have something here. Let's take this to a chemist and see what they think. And my dad had created a natural hair care line, naturally based hair care line. And so we had a lab in Toronto that he worked with that really focused on natural ingredients and natural products. So we immediately had someone we could at least talk to about this. And that was a huge starting point. And I went to them and I told them our idea, and they were like, that's impossible. That's going to be so
Really?
expensive. Yeah, they're like, there's no way we can get all of these ingredients and all of these effects into one product. It's going to be like $1,000 product. No one's going to buy it. It's going to be impossible. And I felt like pretty dejected by that, but I still had a fire of like, this isn't the end. I was like, please think about it, take it home, sleep on it. And not even a week later, they called me and they're like, okay, I think we have it.
That's
And
wild.
Really?
they created what is Inner Glow today. It was their first stab at it was perfect. It smelled perfect, it felt perfect, and I didn't want to just trust myself, so I made samples of it and brought it to my dad and brother's hair salon where there's hundreds of women coming through all the time. There's my demographic, and I handed them out like crazy. I made them blind questionnaires so they could go home, try it, answer it without, offending me and
Right.
being nervous, to be
Right.
honest. And the reviews from the moment they tried it were insane. Like they loved it. They loved the smell, the texture, the results. Like everything was 5 stars. So I knew, okay, it's not just me who likes it. Now it's like hundreds of women who've tried it and men who've loved it. So that's kind of how we got started with the formula. And then packaging, I was going to use those green bottles that my mom had first bought as her little hobby project. And I was like, oh, I'll
Right.
put a sticker, it'll be cute. And then again, I was like, okay, now we've got this amazing formula. Now we need to level up the packaging. And that's when we found what is still the same packaging today, these really pretty white rectangular bottles. We had them silkscreen printed instead of a sticker. So again, it was like that little, okay, well, the formula is this good. Now the bottle needs to be that good.
Right.
And then we were just going to launch on social media and share it word of mouth and at the hair salon and with people we knew and kind of just see where that went. Instagram was so big at the time. But then I came across one of the early girls who helped me early on. I saw she posted, if anyone's looking for an amazing PR girl, this is who you should hire. And I was like, interesting. Okay, let me just get on a call with her and see what's up. 10 minutes into talking to her, I was like, okay, yeah, we need to do this. This is exactly, we need to hire her and we need to try doing some PR. And so again, it was like we went from Instagram to hiring a freelance PR person, and she was amazing. She is the one who hooked us up and got us into all of the magazines, Elle, Forbes, Chatelaine. We were in Hello next to Kate Middleton. Like we were in every news outlet within the first few months of launching, because it was a great product. It was a good story. People were really connected to the mother-daughter aspect. I think it really just touched people as being like an honest, exciting new brand. And that was really like how we took off in the beginning. We were on a lot of news, like daytime, morning TV. That was a huge one for us. Just finding our demographic naturally gravitated towards that. I remember I was on vacation and my phone was blowing up. Like my Shopify was going ding, 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 ding. And I was like, what? And I showed my boyfriend at the time, now husband, and he's like, no, it's got to be a glitch. Like, there's something wrong with your
That's
website. And
funny.
I'm like, okay, no, there's not. Rude. No,
It's
we're
rude.
really just selling a lot of product. And it was because I didn't even know, but we were on that morning's like news segment, and women were just buying it like crazy. I think we sold like the most we've ever sold that one morning.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and then retail was challenging. I wanted to be in retail from the beginning. I knew that I'd seen the success of Glossier and I saw the potential for direct to consumer. And especially at the time, Instagram being a more usable platform than it is today. Like today, it's much more challenging to grow on there. And I saw, it was very grassroots at the time. Now it's so highly produced. So it would have been, I thought in my mind, it would be easy to just, put the brand out there and see what happens and it would take
Right.
off. And I thought the same for retail. About a year after launching online, I was like, okay, let's start dabbling in retail. And I was cold pitching all of these retailers. Um, yeah, I always wanted to, after that first year, I was like, okay, let's start tackling some retail. And in 2021, I moved from Toronto to California, um, or from the farm to California to be with my boyfriend at the time, husband, and we got married that year. And it was that year that I was like, I'm going to focus solely on retail. Like, I felt like direct to consumer had started plateauing. It was harder to acquire new customers. I'd even done a second round of PR with the launch of our second product, and it just didn't hit the same. The market had shifted. It was COVID. I'd launched it during COVID, and it's a hit product. It's such a our
Yeah.
spray serum is such an incredible product. People loved it, but it just wasn't the same techniques that worked on the first launch were not working on the second. So I was like, okay, let's take this year and just really drill into retail and see where we can get. I spent that entire year cold email and cold walking into stores with no success. And I was so dejected. I was like,
Yeah.
it's not happening. Like, is this the end
Wow.
of the brand? Like, is it going nowhere? Like, I felt so lost and so sad about it because I'd had this great success in Canada, moved to the US, and felt like nothing was working. And it was brutal. Like I submitted to Erewhon that year, got rejected multiple times. I'd submitted to so many big retailers, no response, nothing. And then it was the next year I started to, I took a full year in California to start just making friends and networking and getting my feet in the right doors and just honestly, again, like really leading with like my heart and the story and making friendships and connections that
Right.
one thing leads to another. And a really nice girl who I was driving to the grocery store and I saw this one girl that I'd met at a founder event in LA, and she was walking with like 40 girls. And I'm like, what is happening? And I texted her, I'm like, hey, what is this massive hot girl walk you're on? And she goes, oh, it's the Hype Girl Club. And it's this like group of girls who gets together every Wednesday and they walk down to the beach and back. And so I'm like, cool, can I join? And yeah, she's like, next week, come along. And so I'm walking, I meet them, and turns out the same girl worked at Erewhon, and she made an introduction right away. I like gave her the products, told her the story, and she was like, these should be at Erewhon, like no question. And right after that, we got in, and it was just
Wow.
this like
That is
smooth,
so
seamless.
crazy.
Yeah, she just made that plug for us. They tried the products, heard the story, and we're like, yeah, done, on shelves. So that's yeah, that's pretty much the story for how we've gotten into all of our retailers. One of our next big ones was Aero, semi-private airlines. Another friend from the Hype Girl Club introduced me to their marketing team, and they're like, yeah, the eye patches would be perfect on board. And so now you can fly with your dog and get eye patches on your flight and experience
That's
it that
amazing.
way. And
Wow.
I'd say like one of the only cold intros that worked was I went to a Chase Banking Founder Summit kind of thing at this gorgeous resort in California called Terranea. And as I'm walking out, kind of feeling like really small, like, all these big,
Right.
amazing, cool, successful people. And there I am, just like toting around by myself. And I'm like, I'm inspired, but I also feel really small right now. And I'm walking out, head kind of hanging, and I spot out of the corner of my eye their gift shop. And I was like, let's just go in, drop some eye patches, say hello. Said, hi, here's the story, here's some eye patches, try them, let me know what you think. And I didn't expect to hear anything for, you know, ever. I think I followed
Right.
up, didn't get a response. And then a couple months later, their buyer reached out and she's like, hey, I just got to try your eye patches. They're incredible. We'd love to carry them. And so that's how we got in there. And now They carry the full line, and have been one of our amazing retail partners. And then our latest one is Happier Grocery in New York, which is kind of a similar concept to Erewhon. But it's New York's version. Like it is
Mm-hmm.
very cool. Like the second you walk in there, you feel 10 times cooler. The fruit
Right.
is displayed beautifully. Like the
Right.
vibes are immaculate. And that one was just through our distributor. So Erewhon requires you to have a distributor, and they recommended us to this very cool grocer in New York, and that's how they live there. So every retail plug has been different. Each of them have had kind of a different reason of how we ended up there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's true what they say. It's quote unquote easy to get on shelves. It's very hard to get on shelves, but it's even harder to stay on shelves.
Yeah.
You really
Oh,
have
wow.
to, yeah, figure out how to sell. I know, like, when I talked to my mom about beauty from her days, it was very much the store sold your product. If it's in
Right.
Nordstrom's is selling your product. Now, if you're on any shelf, Sephora included, you are having to invest majorly to make sales happen for that retailer. Even though they're taking, your product at half the cost that you're selling it for on your own website. And if you're not moving, they're going to get rid of you.
That's wild.
Wow.
And I mean, I think it's so interesting to hear, like, I know your story a little bit. I've used your products, we've talked before.
Yeah.
But it's interesting to hear kind of like the details behind it because, this podcast is definitely about like finding a gap and filling the hole. And it
Yeah.
seems like your desire, and even though you've had these like bumps in the road, you've really just kind of like followed your intuition throughout this
Yeah.
whole thing where you were like, okay, next is retail. Like, even though there was that little bit of like a respite, there was like a quiet
Oh, yeah.
time, you were still like, I'm still going to push this because I believe in this. And then also like navigating like marketing that has even evolved during our time because like we all we were there when Instagram started, when you're just sharing
Yeah.
your food, to the
Yeah.
now it's what Instagram is today. And I just think it's super interesting to hear kind of everything you've had, like the nuances you've kind of had to go around, but at the end of the day you've always been like, no, it's still retail, no, it's still, we're still doing this. So I think
Yeah.
it's so interesting to hear how you got to where you were through doing that. So like I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing all of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think also something that was interesting for me, I'd always had to work so hard to do well in school. I was like, a very focused student, but
Mhm.
it didn't come naturally to me. I did well in school because I worked really hard at it. I spent, when I got into law school, I spent 2 summers studying for the LSAT. I wasn't like out hanging out with friends. I was in my bedroom studying like crazy. People in university were like, "Oh, you still go here?" Because I was at home studying all the time.
Right.
Like
Right.
people forgot I was even there because like they were out having fun and like doing things, and I was studying like crazy because I knew if I wanted to get into law school, these are the marks, these are the LSAT score you needed. So I really like put everything aside and drilled into that. Whereas the second I made the shift, okay, I'm not going to law school, I'm starting my own company, and there's a lot, it's constant decision making. Like, you get decision
Right.
fatigue where it's just you're constantly like, okay, this color, that color, this store, that store, this email, that email, like constant decision making. But that was the moment that the decisions came so easily to me in the beginning. I just kind of knew.
Hmm.
And till today, like, I think I do still have a strong gut instinct of what needs to happen and what I need to do. But that's when I knew I was like, I think I'm doing the right thing because these decisions, I've never felt like decisions came so naturally to me and the next steps came so naturally to me. Where school was always an uphill battle, this was like, it just flowed from within of like, this is what needs to happen. This is what,
Hmm.
next. And yeah, I think that was really the moment. I was like in an airport talking to my mom, like making a few decisions about something. And I was like, this is what I'm meant to do.
Yeah. It's almost like it's part of the fullest expression of yourself.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, because you help people's lives. Like, forget, like, even the piece of how you make someone feel better in the
Yeah.
day, and you go and you can attack your day better. Or
Yeah.
actually, maybe I really was struggling with a skin condition and this helped me. And now I feel
Yeah.
more confident, even just looking in the mirror or whatever it is. And I don't know if you've heard of Rabbi Sachs, but he says that he has this thing of like, if you're looking for your purpose, it's usually wherever you have a desire and there's a problem. And where those two places meet, you're probably there to fix it, or you're there and it just will come out of you. It won't be this like struggle or battle. Of course you're going to have challenges. Of course we're going to like face, difficulties, but it sounds like it's like, oh, I found my purpose, that this
Yeah,
is like really just flowing out of me, which is really what we're here to do, right? Like it's
absolutely.
amazing.
It's so true. And I remember from like a young age as a kid saying, what do I want to do? I always felt this like internal, I want to help people. Whatever it is I do, and I'm a Cancer. I think that's like part of my astrology, but it's also
Right.
just like from within. Like I will put anything I'm doing aside in a moment to help someone and like make their day better or easier, whatever it is. And that can come at a huge disadvantage too. You're
Right.
very quick, especially like in relationships. It's very easy to put myself aside to put someone else ahead, or drop what I'm up to make their day easier, better, whatever it is. But I think that's really been a huge guide in what I'm doing with our products. Is when I'll be having like a brutal day where I'm like, what am I doing? Is this going anywhere? Am I ever going to be successful? And then I'll get an email like in that moment that's from a customer saying, I have to tell you, this product completely changed my life. My skin is so much better. I've been trying so many products my whole life and nothing has worked. And this product completely changed my skin. And I can't thank you enough. And I'm like, done. That's
Right.
that's
Yeah.
That's
that's what
amazing.
I'm. That's why I'm here. That's what I'm doing. That's like, that is everything. Is knowing that I was able to help someone because our skin is a lot. It's not just this like vanity project that girls just want to wear makeup and look pretty all the time. It's
Right.
like, no, if your skin is rough and bumpy and you don't feel good about it, what are we supposed to do? It's really, there's no makeup that's going to cover texture and major redness, irritation. Those are things that physically hurt. Like your skin burns sometimes, it feels
Right.
raw, it
Hmm.
feels irritated. You can put makeup over it, but it's that it's there, and no
Right.
one else really notices, and no one else really cares, but you feel it. So to feel like there's something that can help, even if it's not completely clearable, but it just makes you feel better, that's worth everything.
Yeah, and you're giving people confidence, because like
Yeah.
when you walk into a room and you feel like my makeup looks great or,
Yeah,
my skin is just looks good, like you present yourself in a more confident fashion. So it's
100%.
something that you're helping people have that confidence to present themselves into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And something that I didn't even expect to come out of it, as part of our face oil, I've had people reach out and say, I was in the middle of a panic attack. I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I reached for the oil and I took a few deep breaths of the smell, and it literally cured my panic attack.
It
And to
actually
know
is true.
that,
There is something about
It
this
is.
smell that is so
yeah,
calming. It's
It's
like you walk
calming.
into, I don't know what it is. Like I don't know what the oil is. I don't know like the technical chemical, whatever it
yeah,
is, but the smell is so calming.
Hmm.
it is. Yeah, I think that one of the big parts of it is the lavender, which has been studied by major medical institutions as being proven to calm anxiety and nerves. It's a natural aromatherapy, which can sound super hokey, but the studies are there, the science is actually there that it does calm our nerves and our system. So to know that, and it's also having experienced panic attacks, sometimes it's something physical to ground you. Like, yes, we can
Hmm.
do breathing or we can talk ourselves out of it, but being able to like pick something up and like smell it and kind of
Right.
come back into that moment is huge. And so to know that it's not just skincare, which is huge on its own,
Right.
but that people keep it like in their offices and their cubicles next to their computer at home as a moment of I'm stressed, I need something to calm me down, and it's maybe helping you not hit your vape pen or do something a little more self-destructive, but
Right.
it's literally a scent and a moment for yourself that can change everything.
That's
I
incredible.
totally agree.
And like to kind of parlay, because I know in addition to all the human aspects that the product approaches, I feel like, and this is just me sort of like gathering from your Instagram, sort of the aesthetic, your packaging is like very environmentally conscious. Like you seem to make at least like very conscious steps. I mean, I know one time I got the packaging and like you
Yeah.
could just run it underwater and it disappeared.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And I was like, this is amazing. Can you speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I think it's funny. I don't talk a lot about sustainability. I think largely because it's become like that is baseline. We should,
Yeah.
if anyone is creating a
Right.
brand today, working on any company, it should be doing everything it can to be sustainable. But something we're seeing a lot lately is greenwashing, where we're like, it's refillable, but it's the most environmentally friendly packaging to begin with. So that was something from day one. It was like, of course, we're going to have to make this as sustainable as possible. So we use glass packaging, which is not only better for the product, but it's more recyclable than plastic.
Right.
We use natural ingredients, which is a little bit better for the environment as long as you're not overstripping a natural resource of them. So everything is very sustainably sourced from all over the world. So some of the ingredients we aim to be able to grow at the farm and be able to harvest them and have that full ecosystem. But some of them are from, the desert, which we'll never have the climate for. So they're sourced where they naturally come from and naturally grow in the most ethical, sustainable way possible. When it comes to our shipping packaging, we try to keep the box and the packaging as small as possible while still padding the product. So it's kind of just thoughtful things like that, where it's like,
Right.
we could fill the box with more padding and have a bigger box, more of a presentation, but like, let's scale it down and make it more thoughtful on that sense. We are always looking for the most sustainable sources of padding and packaging, like the biodegradable packing peanuts. They run underwater and completely dissolve. Our reusable eye patches would probably be one of the biggest. They're almost 100% reusable. That entire package, I think, has like 2 pieces of garbage in it,
Right.
which is like the plastic that the eye patches come in to keep them sanitary that you throw out. But even the little bottles that come inside of the eye patch kit are refillable. So if you buy the full sizes of our products, you can keep refilling those little glass bottles and use them as purse sizes, travel sizes. The eye patches themselves are infinitely reusable. They're made of medical grade silicone, so you just wash and reuse them. You'll never have to buy another pair of eye patches again. And they go back into their tin, which is aluminum, also infinitely reusable. So yeah, just trying to find ways that make the experience stay at that elevated level where you're enjoying every moment, the feel of the bottle when you pick it up and use it, the feel of the tin, that it's soft, that it, hits all of our senses when we're using them, but also is as sustainable as possible.
Yeah. And so you now have how many products? Because I know you have the face oil, Dew Dream, and the eye petals. What else do you have on the market now?
So yeah, we've got the 3 products, and in 6 years we've launched 3 products, which is really slow. Most brands are launching sometimes 6 products a year, and that's been a huge, that is a part of the sustainability aspect of it as well.
Right.
Is I think the best way to be sustainable is to consume less. Like, we can make as much refillable packaging, crazy stories around bottles being ocean-bound plastic, all of that, which can be great and is great for certain aspects, but especially when it comes to skincare, we don't need 6 new launches a year. Like,
Right.
there's not so much innovation. It's not good for anybody to be using that many new products a year. So that's been a huge part, is to really intentionally create products that are needed and simplify. Like, our serum is a 3-in-1, so instead of needing a serum, an essence, and a toner and an exfoliant, it can even be a 4-in-1. You are using one bottle, one product, one box, one shipment, versus all of those other components. They all come from overseas. It's all a huge impact on the environment to be creating that many products. So when we can consume less, it is a huge difference. If we were to buy 1 pair of jeans instead of fast fashion and needing like 6 pairs of jeans a year, that's like a huge impact right there. So really slowly creating products that there's actual demand for, that will make a true difference on the market, and not just seeing, oh, lip gloss is trendy this year, let's make a lip gloss. Like, no, there's enough lip gloss. If we can break through the market and simplify the lip gloss process and make it better, yes, 100%, let's do it. But if it's just going to add to the waste, there's really no. And same with the face oil, combines multiple products into one: vitamins A, C, and E, all of the omegas, fatty acids that our skin needs. So instead of needing a vitamin C serum and a face cream and an eye cream and like so many products, you can really just use that one bottle and get so much more out of it. And then, we're looking at creating a cleanser. That has been our most requested product, and one that I think I can really innovate in the space and create like a 2-in-1 to a degree without giving it away. Something that simplifies the cleansing process, makes it better, more enjoyable, and combines 2 products in one.
And so since you said that you do source some products from the farm, has
Yeah.
the farm and your face oil, like, does the face oil kind of dictate what you guys like plant and grow on the farm? Have they been pretty symbiotic throughout the entire relationship?
It's funny, we talk about like the challenges of starting the brand and growing it, and it's similar with the farm. Like with every step forward, there's been a few steps back because again, we're not farmers. We
Right.
have no base knowledge on how to do this. So my dad had the vision before we even started the line of having it be a lavender farm where it'd be like rows and rows and rows of lavender, which in theory sounded amazing, and
Right.
just so happened to be one of the main ingredients of our face oil is lavender. And so that first summer there, we planted so much lavender. We were DIYing it all. We didn't have like a team of people out there planting lavender fields. It's me, my mom, and dad and brother out there like digging holes and
Digging
planting
in
lavender. And my dad is so hyper that he every spring when he doesn't see it like blooming and huge by June, which as you know in our northern climate, that's not
Right.
happening. Like you're still wearing a coat, your flowers aren't blooming. He's digging it up and moving it and saying it's dead. So he's honestly been a huge roadblock to our lavender growth at the farm. His lack of patience has really impacted our abilities there. But then he was really inspired to start an apiary. So he really wanted to start tending to bees. He'd seen the benefits that humans get from just being around beehives and the frequencies they emit and the health benefits. And my mom,
Right.
being the sweet woman she is, was like, okay, yeah, let's start an apiary. Let's do it. So a couple years ago, they started with a couple hives, and each year they were able to grow more hives, add more hives, maintain the bees, and then any of the excess honey that would just go to waste, they would, give to friends, jar it, use it at home, and gift it to people. And then I realized, hey, we're using honey in our spray serum, and we source it from a local Ontario apiary that does it sustainably. It was like a 30th generation family. Bees are, I could go on about bees for a long time, but they're
Me
huge.
too.
I love these.
Right?
That is honestly, I'm like your dad. Like it's a dream of mine.
Yeah. They're awesome. I mean, I think it's, what is it? Every like third bite of food is because of bees.
Yeah.
They're pollinating everything, and as our environment, our climate decays, huge impact on the bees. That's going to negatively impact us. So, anyways, the bees are essential. And this is a really amazing local farm that does their apiary, and they were closing. I think they were selling the business, they were retiring, and it just so happened that my dad had come to the lab with me and was like, hey, can we use our honey in this product? And they're like, yeah, absolutely. So we started using our own honey in Dew Dream, and I could, again, go on for a long time about honey and skincare. People are genuinely shocked by how much it can do for our skin, from anti-aging, anti-acne, cleaning the skin, hydrating the skin. It literally does everything that we're looking for. So it's been a really powerful ingredient in Dew Dream. And so, yeah, we continued expanding the apiary at the farm. And one summer, last summer, just out of the blue, a black bear came and destroyed the hives. And then from that day on, they
my
kept
gosh.
coming back because any little trace of honey, like the scraper that was in the barn, they shredded the barn to get to that little drop of
Wow.
honey.
Oh my God.
So after destroying the hives, killing all of our bees, they still would return every night just because of that scent and kept destroying just more things. So we ended up having to like burn anything that had once touched honey, and we're gonna have to start over. So that we thankfully had like enough reserved honey that we can keep producing the product with it. But it's a huge bummer that we'd really grown this apiary pretty far, and now it's gone, burned, and we're having to figure out like, okay, when we restart, how are we going to make sure this doesn't happen again? So very
Yeah.
similar to business where it's like we've learned so much, we hit a point where it's thriving, it's growing, and then it plateaus or something sets us back, and it's like, okay, we're in a whole new landscape. How do we pivot and make that work?
Honestly, I feel like it's so inspiring though. Like, and you just keep going. And that's life, right? It's just a story of life that we all go through and in any aspect. And that's like, even the way you're approaching, you're like, it's been amazing. Then the bears, and you're like, then this, and it's like, but we're going, we're going to keep building. And this is a passion, and the world will make space for it. And that's incredible.
Absolutely. I think our generation especially, we're really prone to saying this isn't working, I'm moving on. You know, we see it with relationships, we see it with careers, you know, and there are of course times where you say, okay, it's enough, we have
Call
to
it,
move
right?
on, you know, that's, and I've always been very realistic in my mind about that. And I even had like moments with my parents where I'm like, tell me if I'm pushing at this point. Like, tell me if I'm reaching,
Right.
tell me if it's time that we just let it go. We've put too much into it and it's not going anywhere. And they always say, they're like, you're the only one who will know when that moment is, and you'll know it better than anyone, and you'll say it. And there's been times for sure where I've come very close to saying like, I just can't do it anymore. Like, I don't think we're going to get out of this one. And then something happens. Like, I get an email from
Right.
someone, or some magical moment comes out of the ether. But it's also not magical, because at the same time, it's every day I put energy and love and attention into it. And at a point, you know, it's all those little moments that build up. We see these overnight successes, like, you know, Kylie Cosmetics. Like, we
Right.
all thought that was an overnight success. But when you look at her life as being in the spotlight since she was a kid, you know, she's had all these micro moments that have built up to that overnight. Maybe she's not the best example, because I mean, there were some factors there that really helped. But if you look at any like amazing founder story who's not a celebrity, you know, Spanx, that was an incredible, you know, incredible trajectory. But you look at her early stories and her early experiences, at no point was she like, this is going to sell for this much money. It was all those little micro moments that have built up, and hopefully all leading to the moment where it can flip
Yeah,
in the
and I think
positive.
you have a lot of
Totally.
people, especially in our generation, who look at things and are like, "Oh, they were an overnight success, and I would want that." And most people are like you in your journey, where you're like, "Well, I worked really hard to get here, and I listened to myself, and I did all these things," which I would say there's a lot of people who wouldn't have had the tenacity to keep with it when you hit a rough spot of like the year in LA, where you were like, I'm not really sure. But then, that group of girls ended up being such, a good thing for your brand. So
Yeah.
I do think that it's like you are very inspiring listening to your story of saying that you're listening to yourself and, keeping on, and you're like, this is my purpose. This is what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too, one thing that really was huge for me is being a founder of a brand, which is, I think, such an overused word, but we'll go with it. Starting a company is so tied to your personal life. You know, it consumes every moment of my day. You know, I'll be out to dinner with my husband, or playing golf, which is a new thing I now do living in the South.
Right.
Like, I'm still thinking about it. Like, it's still with me all the time. And it breaks my heart too to see these founders shredded online. Like, I think there's that girl Amy, who's the founder of Odd Muse, the dress company, who's just getting ripped apart online right now because she claims this and other people claim that. And to see, like, you know, founders are so tied to their companies, and if you have a personal fault, you get dragged, your whole company and business and everything you've built gets dragged. But it's also a really personal experience of, like, I've always been incredibly shy. Like, when I was a kid, people were genuinely like concerned if there was something wrong with me, because I would barely talk. I was like glued to my mom's side. And through this brand, I've grown up so much. Like, 3 months before we launched, my mom, who's like my best friend and everything and business partner, was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And it was like, oh my God, like, my life
Wow.
was flipped upside down. That was like, that was something that kept me up at night one day, worrying that my mom might one day be sick, or I would not have her. And like, that was like one of my biggest fears in life. And to know that 3 months before we're launching this company, it happened, and it was real. And it was like literally our entire worlds were flipped upside down. And I remember coming up to the desk side meetings with all the magazines and PR to, you know, launch this product and tell them our story, which is this mother-daughter story that we were supposed to
Right.
be sitting there telling together. I remember sobbing to my PR person at the time, being like, I don't know how I'm going to tell this story without crying. Like, how I'm going to
Yeah.
say, like, when they go,
Yeah.
where's your mom? And I'm like, she's getting chemo. Like, I can't even say those words, like, in this
Right.
moment, let alone in an interview. And I remember like running to the hospital to like bring her glasses before going to a meeting with Elle, and it was just like the scariest, most stressful, haunting time. And it's been 5 years since that's happened, and the business has gone up and down and all around with that journey. But I think it kind of happened in a wild way where I would have been at law school when that happened, and there's no way I would have been able to survive at
Right.
school knowing my
Right.
mom was going through the surgeries and the chemo and being so sick. Like, I was largely her caretaker with my dad. Like, my dad and I were with her 24/7, you know, keeping her spirits up, taking her to appointments, giving her meds, like all of that stuff. And I think the business really saved me because it kept my mind somewhere else, and it made me productive and kept me creative, and it gave me a purpose to get through that. I probably would have dropped out of law school and like come home to take care of her, and then what, you know, like
Right.
Right.
that would have left me in a weird place too. But I had this business that was like growing while I was taking care of her, and it definitely saved me, and it made me so much more confident in myself to like show up to meetings by myself, and, you know, okay, it's time to like be a big girl, and you have to do these things without her because she physically can't come. And like I think that was a huge part of growing, and asking for help. That was something I was never able to do. I kind of like struggled in school because I was too scared to put my hand up and be like, I don't know how to do this math equation, or I don't understand this. Like, I would just kind of sit in the back, and, you know, there's 30 kids in the class, so no one noticed that I didn't understand what was happening. And then the biggest thing that's helped this business grow is asking for help and like reaching out to people and saying like, hey, like I saw you're in this retailer, I would love to be in that too, would you mind introducing me? Or, hey, like, you know, you work here, like, can you introduce me to this person, or can I send you product? And that's how anything has happened. Like the same story I told with Erewhon, like I asked that girl to meet, and I asked to give her our products, and I put it there for her to see if it's something she's interested in. And, you know, people want to help each other. I think at the end of the day, that's something that's kind of given me hope in humanity, is through this brand, I've seen how people do want to help each other achieve things, especially women, in what could be seen as a very competitive and like mean fields. Like fashion and beauty had always had this reputation of being so cutthroat, but I have found more friendships and more support in both personal and business through this whole experience.
It's so incredible. And honestly, your story, I know for our listeners, will inspire in so many aspects. I mean, like there's so many pieces, if it's professional, if it's personal, if it's, you know, in so many different ways that your story is inspiring and what you do is inspiring. And we're so grateful to have you on as a guest because obviously you inspire us, and your story that between you and your mom, between being an entrepreneur and being like, no, there's something inside of me and I'm going to do this. And it's been successful. And yeah, you do continue to have hurdles, and as you grow, right, everything has that as you're growing. But you just, I mean, it's been inspiring me just sitting here listening to you now. And I'm just so excited for people to hear more about your story, and that everybody should use your oil and your Dew Dream and iPill and all of it. So we're so excited for more people to know about you and just to be inspired by you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. That's been one wild thing, is I'll meet women in like their 40s or their 60s who are like, your story's so inspiring. And I'm like, what? That is crazy. But you know, we've all been through wild experiences. And I think that's something that the brand really encourages, is connection and sharing stories, experiences, resources, you know, whatever we have, I want to give to someone else as well. So I think just continuing that, you know, if you love a product, share it with someone. You know, there's no need for gatekeeping in anything in this life.
So true. So
Yeah,
true.
well, we appreciate it so much. And as Kristen said, you know, your story is super inspiring. And we obviously want our listeners to be able to use your product. Where should we direct them to? How should the listeners get your products?
Yeah, you guys can go to amandinesolbotanicals.com in the US or .ca in Canada and shop online. And on there, you can also see all of the retailers you can find us in, like Erewhon, Terranea, and all of the fun spas that you can go experience it in, facials as well.
Amazing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Amandine. It was so good to talk to you.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Thank you.